then they're going to now get into like the club games should be quite intense for the next month or so as well. You would well when they play them. As well for some of these players because they're all playing against each other now. A lot of girls that were like rooming together or what have you over this last week will be playing against each other now, and I'm sure it'll help build that competitive edge for certain. And it was good to see him going away from some of the Saints players that maybe we know are going to be in and around the side and putting some other girls in, particularly in the front row. I'm not sure that the starting props necessarily did themselves great justice in this game, but Liverpool was good in the game the week before. So there's competition for places,
Yeah.
and there's certainly competition for places in the outside backs. There was no Georgia Wilson in this game, who I think is as talented as any of the back five that were playing. I was a little bit disappointed with Bennett off the bench. I don't think she had her best involvement. Not that she was bad, just that I'd hoped for something for her to kick up a gear. I think Tara Jones is a really good player who just occasionally has a bit of a lapse of concentration with her distribution. She threw a couple of balls a bit high to some of the on-running props, but that's a position where Sinead Peach is the other option, isn't she, as competition for places. So there's still people there pushing, but I'm not sure if anyone else pushed enough in these matches. But there's people like Hornby didn't play. There's people like Molyneux who are injured still. And then in the halves, there's people like Zoe Harris, who's been really good for Saints, who didn't play in the game. So there is competition for places now, which I don't think we can say that there was maybe the last World Cup. So that's what these two games will have given the coach, really, wouldn't they? A chance to see a lot of players.
Yeah, and you need in a World Cup format, the kind of number of games they're playing over a relatively short period of time, they're going to need options, aren't they? So
yes,
yeah,
because they don't. It's not like the men playing once a week. They'll be playing. They're playing basically 5 games in 3 weeks, aren't they? The women.
Yes. So, but yeah, just generally, you need to have a little bit of flexibility in your squad. So I think the better option in terms of understanding what kind of resources he has available to him.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
But
someone else who got a chance to understand some of the resources available to him, but only really, like he said himself, like there's 10 spaces up for grabs still, or whatever, however he framed it in the starting lineup. It's not his final look at things, but it was England versus the Combined Nations. It was 18-4. 18-4 was the final score. 12-0 at half time. So England won both halves. 9,393 was the crowd figure. I think that's higher than I expected. So well done to getting people in there. Jack Smith was the referee. Do you want to take us through the scorers?
So for England, there were tries for Jake Wardle, Williams, and Bateman. Tompkins kicked his 3 shots at goal, and for the All-Star combis, CO had his customary try, but slightly different than normal. But yeah, it was a good try actually.
Yeah. Fan view starts from Mark Butler. He said, this game being played on short notice last year made some sense. This year is just unimaginative. A lack of proper internationals is one of the biggest things hampering rugby league's growth, and this is not a proper international. Not building on France's 2009 Four Nations appearance was a huge missed opportunity, but to not have them playing big games now is insane. England/GB should be out there every year for as long as it takes. Yeah, I think France wasn't considered as an option this year because they're playing against each other in the World Cup was part of the thought process that people have talked about, isn't it? But Mark's got a point, hasn't he? This doesn't feel like a proper international necessarily, and is it the right way to go?
I I don't really understand the argument about not playing against a team you're going to play later on. I don't understand why that's a problem. It wasn't a problem for the wheelchair guys.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I always think we'll get to talk about the game, but I always hope that an international is an opportunity for both teams to understand where they are, kind of friendly matches. And I think we'll talk about the French result later on, but I think it shows that they probably haven't been stronger in my kind of time of watching rugby league, to be honest, since the 90s, really. The influence of Catalan and Toulouse and that kind of thing they probably are the strongest they've ever been. And I know that's been one of the concerns, is that do France put up a strong enough contest if you're trying to battle hardened teams, but
there's a question about, is anyone else strong enough?
Well, exactly.
Playing France as well. So are we all hampering ourselves?
Exactly, and I just because one team is on paper better than the other, I don't think, if we go back to the women's game, I don't think France will have been negatively affected by their play in that game. I think they could have a lot of positives. If even if it was a similar score, if France had played England men in a parallel universe, I don't think it would have been detrimental to either team.
No,
really. And I would always prefer for us to be for international teams who are going to be competing in tournaments like the World Cup to be playing. And I think an all-star combis team is it's falling between two stools, and it doesn't really do either thing very well. So I would have much preferred us to play France in this match, I have to say. But there you go. At Stozza 1981 says, not impressed with the game. Would rather see a meaningful Yorkshire versus Lancashire series to help with the national selection process. The only positive for me was seeing George Ugly Tom Cruise Williams have a decent game for a change, even though I don't think his overall form warranted selection.
But then after the performance, is his England form clearly warrants selection for the World Cup squad, and shows that his England form doesn't necessarily marry up with his Warrington form. He did a lot of the similar things he's done for Warrington. It's just they actually had a more end product in this game.
We've been saying, haven't we, that he's been trying incredibly hard for Warrington. Yeah. Possibly in the wrong directions, etc. But I don't think anyone could say that his effort hasn't been there. It's just, a crippling lack of form for the team in general.
I think some of the other selections that we're going to get to, you could have conversations about why were they selected and put other names into the conversation, or even think, well, there's NRL-based players who mean that conversation's sort of irrelevant. But at halfback, especially with when you look at the form elsewhere, who do we pick above someone who was actually competent in the NRL, who's got a track record of winning things, who knows what's expected from the coach that we've got? Who actually else is there? And assuming that basically we're writing Johnny Lomax off from England because his Saints career is more important, it seems like. So, who else is there? We've got Johnny Lomax with his busted bicep, and Jack Wellesby. Who else is there? Ratchford, fucking kidding me. Gale, absolutely fucking kidding me. We get down. You get down below that, and you start to talk about people who've never played for England.
Yeah. Like
Harry Smith, or I suppose there's Jake Truman, but again, are you kidding me? His form hasn't warranted. If George Williams' form hasn't warranted it, and he was not amazing in the NRL, whereas Jake Truman's been not good in Super League. So, if you actually look on form on halfbacks, either don't play a halfback or George Williams was the only legitimate selection for that position in this squad, in this side from what is actually available.
Jordan Lilly? No, I'm joking. No, I mean, at his best, George Williams is a world-class 7. Now, he's not at his best, but I would say, you're right, of what was available for selection, he was probably the best available, and I think he played a decent game. So yeah, I the selection was borne out, I would say.
Yeah, certainly Williams was decent, wasn't he? And that was Stoz's point there, and I think it's been acknowledged early doors that probably all of us who've been looking at George Williams, some Wigan fans laughing because he's not winning anything at Warrington right now, and also some people just who like to see people fall from the top down or what have you, or we just enjoy Warrington doing badly because he spends so much money, etc. Who's watched him in a Warrington shirt and thought, well, this team's rubbish, and he's their main man. It's different in England shirt, isn't it? There's main men everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's not making up for anyone else in the England team. He's got to do his job in the England team, and I think we saw at Canberra, we've seen at Wigan in the past, he can do his job. Always in Our Shadow said, who cares if Wayne doesn't give a fuck picking Watkins, McIlroy, Williams, Hall? Why should we bother? Time to get rid of this fixture. Saves Wigan and Saints making up excuses to pull players. I get the sentiment. We've covered Williams. I've got to say, the other 3 selections that Always in Our Shadows pulled out there, Alan, I strongly would question their selections. I think after that game on Saturday, we got to see 4 potential England hookers, and McIlroy was the best one of the 4. McShane has basically said, I'm not in the World Cup squad. If he's in the World Cup squad, he needs to be better than he was in his Man of Steel year. From now on in, I think, or as good as he was in his Man of Steel year from now on in, because he was shit when he came on the pitch.
Yes, he was,
and he hasn't been good all year either. Let's be honest.
Yeah, one of my main notes was about how we've got an issue at 9.
Yeah,
McIlroy was serviceable but limited, but I think we knew that, and to be honest, I think Wayne knew that.
I think he got the best out of McIlroy you can get out of McIlroy at this stage of his career, and I don't want that to be what our number 9 is in the World Cup.
God, no.
It's until Wellens speaks to Roby and says sort it out. It's not getting sorted out, is it?
No, it is a real area of weakness, definitely. Yeah, can't argue with that.
What about Watkins and Hall? I, to be honest, thought Ryan Hall was pretty decent. I don't know if it's good enough to beat Australia. I'm confident that it isn't, but it's good enough to beat everyone else. Ryan Hall.
I didn't have a problem with the performances of either Watkins or Hall. Actually, I thought they did okay, but yeah, then they wouldn't be first choice. But again, Wayne's not picking them as first choice. He's picking them through necessity, and I don't think either of them disgraced themselves.
He had an opportunity to look at Tom Davies. He had an opportunity to go elsewhere in that position, and he's obviously thought Hall's the best option for him right now.
Yeah. Well.
Watkins really surprised by. It came out of the blue for me, his selection in the squad, let alone his appearance in the side. I think if Herbie Farnworth's fit, he's got one of the centre spots. If Mark Percival's fit, he's got the other centre spot. So, and Oliver Gildart as well is in the NRL, who could have one of those centre spots depending on where he's up to in terms of ever playing. It depends what his new coach thinks of him, I suppose, when he comes in, because he hasn't had much of an opportunity yet. So, yeah, but we're talking more about the players than the actual performance, aren't we? And I think we're going to keep doing that, to be honest.
Yeah. To be honest, all my notes are about that. But
yeah.
EFC 78JU says Sean Wayne's men have